Namaste, my name is KantKumar. Today I am going to tell you something about China and its economy. I am going to explain in detail that what type of country China is and what type of economic policy China has implemented and how those policies has significantly boosted the Chinese economy and has placed it on the top of the world economy. China is world's second largest economy. It is world's second power of the world. So today I am going to explain in detail what made China to gain this type of economic progress in a very short span of time. China is a socialist country. China calls itself a socialist state. China is situated in East Asia, and China is also one of the four oldest civilizations. China have a written history of around 5000 years. Since China is an ancient civilization, so in ancient time China had done some remarkable invention which has significantly contributed in the development of the civilization and the world. In ancient time, the silk was a very remarkable discovery of China, a remarkable invention of China. The silk was first discovered, invented in China. China also invented other significant things like in first time China used paper. China invented paper and China also invented the printing machine. Gunpowder, Barood was also invented in China, and discovery of gunpowder significantly changed the landscape of the world. The compass is also an invention of China. The invention of compass significantly helped the sailor in navigation. All these four inventions has significantly helped in the progress of this world, and it shaped the world civilization, culture and custom of the world. In ancient time, China was holding a very significant position at world stage. It was one of the very prosperous country of this world. In medieval time, China went through many ups and downs, and during 19th century, the Industrial Revolution in Europe had significantly changed the landscape of this world. The Industrial Revolution had made European country technically superior to the other nations. European powers had technologically surpassed China, and because of technology, the European power had invented modern weapons, which had led to significant increase in the power of the European nations. During 19th century, the Qing dynasty was ruling over China, and the ruling Qing government were experiencing internal stripes which had made Qing government vulnerable and very weak. At the time when Qing government was going through internal strife, that time the European country was trying to influence China, and in 1839 Britain attacked China. That time Britain had modern weapons, and because of modern weapons, the Britain won the war with China. Britain won the Opium War, and after winning the Opium War, Britain forced China to sign an equal treaty. The first unequal treaty China signed was the Treaty of Nanking in 1942. After signing the Nanking Treaty in 1942, China had to cede the controlling power of Hong Kong to Britain. China lost the control of Hong Kong, and it was given to Britain. In the year of 1856, again Britain in collaboration with France attacked China. The Anglo-French alliance won the Second Opium War. After winning the second Opium War, the Anglo-French alliance captured Guangzhou city. In the year of 1895, First Sino-Japanese War started. Japan won this war and Japan forced China to go through an equal treaty. A treaty was signed in a Japanese city, Shimonoseki, and through this treaty, China ceded the control of Taiwan to Japan. By the end of 19th century, many power of the world had controlled some part of China. Like some part of China was controlled by Britain, some was controlled by Japan, some part of was controlled by Portugal, French, Germany and Russia. They had not fully colonized China, but they had controlled some part of China. This activity is known as spheres of influence in China. These countries had divided China into a sphere of influence where each power had exclusive trading and investment right. This allowed them to control China's resources and economy without the cost and efforts of formal annexations. So we can say this was another tactics of the colonizer country to control China at a fraction of cost. And this action of dividing China in parts is termed as cutting off Chinese melon. They were considering whole China like a big melon, and since melon is big, so one person cannot eat that big melon. When one have to eat a melon, they have to cut it into pieces and people eat in pieces. So China by area it was a very vast country. So those colonizer country, the colonizer country controlled some area of China and established spheres of influence there. And they got the favorable treatment in terms of trade and extraction of resources. Since in 19th century, China had gone through many turmoil. It had gone through many ups and downs, and many parts of China were controlled by the foreign powers. This had made the local people very angry, and this led to the emergence of Chinese nationalist or Chinese patriot person in China. Chinese people started revolting against the Qing Empire, and after the revolution of 1911, the Qing dynasty was ousted. And in the year of 1912, a republican government was established in China. The republican government was established under the leadership of Sun Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen is known as father of China. That time many other prominent leaders also emerged. Among them, one is Mao Zedong and Li Ta-chao. This person name is Li Ta-chao. This person, Li Ta-chao, was the first socialist leader of China. And he was also a librarian. He was senior to Mao Zedong. When Mao Zedong was a librarian, Mao Zedong was working as an assistant under Li Ta-chao. So Li Ta-chao is known as the first socialist leader of China. He was a great thinker and he was also a great philosopher. So these Marxist leaders were very much influenced by the philosophy of socialism, socialist philosophy and ideology. During this time, during 1911, some socialist scholars also emerged. Among them, Some of the prominent leaders are Li Tachao, Mao Zedong, Chen De-shui. These were the prominent socialist thinker of that time. The socialist leader of that time, they were very much influenced by the socialist philosophy of Marxism and Leninism. In the context of May 4th movement and successful Russian Revolution, Marxism and Leninism influenced socialist philosophy and ideology emerged in China. The success of Russian Revolution had also boosted the morale of those leaders, and they were trying to establish a socialist party in China. The first National Congress of the Communist Party of China took place in the year of 1921, and the period during which this Congress was held was 23rd July to 2 August. This Congress was concluded on a boat in Nanhu Lake in Chiaxiang, and this event is considered as the official founding of Communist Party of China. After establishing the Communist Party of China, the communist leader started trying to gain ground in China. They started trying to establish a socialist government in China. And for the establishment of socialist government, they started fighting with the ruling party Kuomintang. From the year of 1927, Kuomintang and Communist Party of China started fighting among themselves, and this fight continued till 1949. This fighting culminated in losing of the Kuomintang and the formulation of People's Republic of China in 1949. Since this fight was very long, that time in the year of 1927, there was not only Nationalist Party Kuomintang. That time, Britishers had also carved out some part of the China. Some part was also carved out by the Japanese. Some part was carved out by the Russia, French, German. So the fight was not easy. So what happened that time? The Communist Party of China, since they were in the earlier stage, in 1927, they were in earlier stage, only 6 years had passed. So the number of Communist Party cadres were limited, and so they adopted guerrilla war. Since Kuomintang was also a domestic party and Communist Party of China was also a domestic party, and both of the party were not happy with the foreigners who had controlled some part of the China. So during Second Sino-Japanese War, the Communist Party of China and the KMT, they formed an alliance to fight together with the Japanese. Since the war against the Japanese was going, but still there was some ideological difference between the KMT and the CPC. So there was some internal strife between these two parties. But they had formed the alliance, so they continued fighting with the Japanese aggressors. And Japanese lost the war because of the USA attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the World War II ended. So Japanese retreated. After retreating of Japanese, again Communist Party of China and KMT started their war. And the war between KMT and CPC was a war of ideology, and they were fighting among themselves. Both were Chinese. So this war is known as civil war. During this civil war, lakhs of people were killed. And this war was a very brutal war. We can say that this civil war very bloody in nature. And it was against the essence of Chinese. But since it was an ideological war, in the year of 1949, the Communist Party of China outnumbered KMT. In the year of 1949, the Communist Party of China won this civil war, and the person of KMT they run away. After winning the civil war, the communist leaders formed a socialist state, that is People's Republic of China. The People's Republic of China was established under the leadership of Mao Zedong in the year of 1949. So in the year of 1949, the socialist state was established. China became a socialist state. After the formulation of People's Republic of China, it adopted socialist political philosophy. Why China adopted socialist political philosophy? Because the People's Republic of China was formed through a revolution, through a communist revolution. And this war was fought by the workers and peasants of China. The alliance of workers and peasants, the alliance of workers and peasants, they thrown away the nationalist party. So, to serve the interest of the workers and laborers, a socialist state was formed. The main motive of forming a socialist state was to establish a egalitarian society in China, a equal society in China, and only through socialist mechanism an equal society can be formed. So China implemented socialism in China. China adopted Marxism-Leninism as their founding and guiding ideology and principle for the establishment of socialist state. So in the year of 1949, a socialist state was formed in China, and China implemented planned economy. Planned economic mechanism is a mechanism system in which government and central authority makes all the major decisions regarding the production, distribution and consumptions of the goods and services in the country. Everything is controlled by the government and the central authority. We can understand the planned economy through this picture. We can see that planned economy is like a puppet show where the master is government and center authority, and center authority they decides on everything about the nation. Here we can see each and every sphere area is directly controlled by the government. There is no any intermediary in controlling of the system, in controlling of the economic system of the country. The mechanism of planned economy is aligned with the socialist ideology, and it emphasizes the public benefit over the individual profit. So it is the planned economy keeps a very horizontal view. So here once again I am going to tell you about the planned economy. The planned economy is wholly controlled by the government. The pricing is controlled by the government. There is no direct or indirect hand of the market in control of the prices of the product. It is generally done through 5 years plan, and all the things is decided that what in next 5 years they have to do. Since it's a planned economy, it gives a very horizontal view. So generally what happens, it is a bit inefficient because the failing industries or the industries which is not gaining or which is in loss, they get the support from the government. So in this system, what happens, an efficient system is also kept and gets the support, which makes the system a bit inefficient in nature. The innovation is also a bit difficult because of horizontal view regarding the worker. All the workers get the same benefits. There is no concept of incentives. So those the people does not take risks, which leads to difficult in innovation. In also planned economy, there is lack of freedom. So after formulation of People's Republic of China, the leaders, the socialist leaders, were turning every stone to taste the fruit of success. After the establishment of People's Republic of China, China implemented planned economy, and its leader Mao Zedong was very ambitious in nature. So Mao Zedong wanted to surpass Britain in the production of the good in just 15 years. So Mao Zedong started a very ambitious project. That project is named as Great Leap Forward. With a purpose to industrialize China, Mao Zedong started Great Leap Forward in the year of 1958. The Great Leap Forward was an economic and social campaign. The goal of Great Leap Forward was to rapidly transform China from an agrarian society into a industrial powerhouse. Since it was a very ambitious project, and through this project Mao Zedong wanted to surpass Great Britain in just 15 years. Mao Zedong had also planned to match United States in the production of the good. But since the policies of Great Leap Forward was not well researched and it was implemented in a haste, which led to the failure of this project. And this was a very big failure of China. It resulted in economic chaos in China. Mao Zedong accused the right-wingers for the failure of Great Leap Forward. It is said that these right-wingers had controlled almost all field of China. These right-wingers were well educated, and these right-wingers were previously, during the reign of KMT, Nationalist Party, they were holding higher position and they were somehow related to bar lords. We can say they were a kind of zamindar type of person. And when Communist Party of China was formed, they had lost their land, they had lost their property, they had lost everything. KMT had already vanished from China. So for their survival, they had disguised themselves as a communist member, as a communist cadre. But internally, with their mind and heart, they were still somehow supporting the nationalist party or the capitalist structure. And they internally wanted to weaken the communist mechanism. So what they were doing, they internally making the Communist Party hollow. They were feeding false information to Mao Zedong about the national strength. It is said that these peoples were giving the false information regarding the agricultural production, regarding the agricultural production. And according to their report, Mao Zedong was taking decision, and since the data which he was getting, that was not correct, that was incorrect, that was doctored, which resulted in a disaster in China. In the year of 1959, Great Famine started in China, which led to the death of lakhs of peoples. Lakhs of peoples had starved, they had died by hunger, which had angered Mao Zedong. So, through reports, it is said that Mao Zedong had got the news that these right-wingers wants to destabilize Communist Party of China. And the Great Leap Forward failure was the recent example which had caused death to millions of people. So Mao Zedong, what he did, they wanted to weed out these right-wingers. We can say these right-wingers were a kind of reactionary person to the Communist Party of China. They were reacting. They were there was, we can say, there was a lot of side effect because of these right wingers to the Communist Party of China. So, to weed out, to overthrow these right wingers, in the year of 1966, Mao Zedong started Cultural Revolution to weed out the राइट विंगर्स. वो खर परपात की तरह राइट विंगर्स को एकदम कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी से निकाल देना चाहते थे. सो Mao Zedong started Cultural Revolution. The Cultural Revolution was started in the year of 1966 and it lasted till 1976. It was a socio-political movement of Communist Party of China. The Cultural Revolution was started by Mao Zedong to purify the Communist Party of China following the failure of Great Leap Forward. During the Cultural Revolution, the four O's were also targeted. The Communist Party of China had a thought that because of these four O's, China went through 100 years of humiliations. The foreign nations controlled China and they did atrocities to the people of China. And so the Communist Party of China wanted to create a new China. So what they did during the Cultural Revolution, they also attacked on the old ideas. They said the old ideas are the reason for the failure or the backwardness of the China. The old culture, illogical type of culture and customs, they are also hindering the progress of China. So Communist Party of China launched an attack on these ideology, and they also attacked on old habits. It means the customs. These all are related to customs, that these old things are a kind of barriers in the progress of China. So during Cultural Revolution, the Red Guards, we can say, were a kind of army of youngsters, the college students, and they were young, and they listened Mao Zedong, and they just destroyed everything related to culture and custom. They burned down the temples which had a history of thousands of years, because that was termed as the old thing. and it was termed by the Communist Party of China, the old things are the real culprit which made China to go through humiliations through the hand of the foreigners. After the death of Mao Zedong, cultural revolution ended up. The second generation of leaders took charge of People's Republic of China. The most prominent leader of second generation is Deng Xiaoping. After Mao, Deng Xiaoping became the paramount leader of China. Deng Xiaoping was very pragmatic and realistic in nature. For the economic improvement of China, Deng Xiaoping started reform and opening up of China. In the year of 1978, Deng Xiaoping started transitioning the Chinese economy from a centrally planned system to a market-oriented system. China, when opted for the market-oriented system, a market system, it opened its economy for the foreign trade and investment. This reform and opening up of China provided the much needed development path after years of stagnation under the Mao Zedong. The market-based reforms were first introduced in agricultural sector. The first economic reform was done in agricultural sector. This approach dismantled the collective farming system and it was replaced with household responsibility system in agricultural field. And this change boosted the agricultural production of China and this also helped the farmer to gain some extra income. Through this system, after meeting the quota, the extra grain was allowed to sold in the market, which resulted in a strengthening of the economic condition of the farmers. In the industrial sector also reforms were done. In industrial sector, what happened? The private sectors were gradually opened. They had not suddenly opened all the sectors of China. The bigger sector in the beginning was kept under the control of the government and gradually that control was loosened. The doors were opened for the foreign enterprises to run their businesses without hindrance in the beginning in a very few sectors and gradually that was expanded to the bigger sector. This mechanism worked as a shock proof and it controlled the prices in China. Here we can look at this chart, this picture. In the year of 1978, we can see most of the business was done by the state-owned enterprises. We can see in the year of 1978, reform and opening up started. You can say 1984. This year also, the state industries was gaining its ground. It was improving. In the year, we can say 96 also, it was going up. It means a state-owned industries was holding a very significant position in economic sector even after the reform and opening up of China, even after opening the market for the private or foreign investment. Now we see this is the trend of foreign this is the trend of private sector. Here we can see this is the in 1978 there was no private sector, zero. But when it was open for the private sector, for the foreign nationals to establish the enterprises or companies, In the beginning, the progress was very slow. Gradually, they started gaining ground. Till the year of 90s, the progress was very slow. But in 90s, some more reform was done, and after those reform, the Chinese economy, the private sector started gaining ground. It is started holding its position in the market. When private sector started going up, the government sector started coming down. By the year of 2008, the private firms had already surpassed the government owned enterprises. Here we can see in the year of 2001, the China became the formal member of World Trade Organization. So after that also we can see China saw a very fast, the private sector saw a very fast development, a steep development. In current time also, the state owned enterprises hold a very significant position in China. Most of the big industries is still controlled by China, and the Chinese government have still a very tight control over the private sector. And currently both sector, state owned enterprises and private enterprises, they a kind of run parallelly, and this dual track of marketization, dual track economic mechanism has put China on the path of, on the track of economic development. China was doing the economic reform, but its political mechanism was still very much a socialist political system. And socialist political system gives a very limited scope for the private sector. In Chinese constitution, it was mentioned that China will have planned economy, and in constitutionally every law was drafted. The laws had got the constitutional validity. So the private sector was not getting that much freedom in the operation in China, because the private sectors were very much afraid that if maybe sometime it will happen that government will control the private sector, and that time what the private person would do, they won't have any power. So to have more economic liberty and to give them constitutional validity, a new constitution was formed in the year of 1982. The current constitution which China has implemented, the constitution was implemented in the year of 1982. Previously, China had implemented three constitutions. This constitution is the fourth constitution. So, in this fourth constitution, through constitutional amendment, China redrafted their economic, China redrafted their political philosophy. China brought a very drastic change in Chinese political system. Previously, China was implementing socialism, pure socialism. We can say pure socialism. But through when reform and opening up started, the market economy started functioning in China. Market economy and socialism is contradictory in nature. A market economy cannot be validated on a socialist structure. So, to validate the market economy or the open economy, China redefined socialism. China came with a new definition of socialism. China brought socialism with Chinese characteristics. In a new way, socialism was defined. Socialism with Chinese characteristics, which means China is implementing socialism, but it has some other characteristics which is very much influenced by the local condition of China. The first time this phrase socialism with Chinese characteristics was used in the year of 1982 by the Deng Xiaoping during 12th National Congress. During 12th National Congress, he had said, in carrying out our modernization program, we must proceed from Chinese reality. This statement is a very pragmatic in nature. He had further said that we must integrate the universal truth of Marxism with concrete realities of China, blaze the path of our own, and build a socialism with Chinese characteristics. He had said that the economic reform or the market economy is the need of the China. For the Chinese progress, China must have to take the path of open market economy. And we should consider the realistic condition of China, and accordingly we need to redefine the socialism in the context of Chinese reality. And redefining the Chinese and redefining the socialism in Chinese context is socialism with Chinese characteristics. I said that we will not going to divert from the socialist path, but we should also know our realities. We should also not look down upon the pragmatic things. It does not matter if a cat is black or white as long as it catches the mice. It means if China is implementing market economy and is still able to maintain this socialist mechanism, or it is going to maintain an egalitarian society, then work is done. Peoples are getting rich. It doesn't matter. The economic prosperity has come through planned economy or through market economy. If China is economically progressing, then their work is done. I had just told you that China had gradually opened its economy. It had not wholly opened in one go. In the beginning, China had started some pilot project. So, in the beginning, China had established 4 special economic zones in China. A special economic zone are designed regions offering market-driven policies and incentives to attract foreign investment and promote rapid economic development, leading to significant growth in trade and industrial and technological advancement. So, these were the area which was especially designed for the promotion of the trade and industrialization and technological advancement of the China. And this area was a kind of tax free, and there was the policies which were applied in those areas were very liberal in nature. So in the beginning, China had started 4 special economic zones. One is Shenzhen, Zhuhai, Xiamen and Shantou. These were the 4 special economic zones which was established during the first phase of reform and opening up in China. A special economic zone which was opened in the early phase of economic reform had brought significant technological advancement in China, which led to the opening of or establishment of many other type of economic zone. Following, economic and technological development zone was started in China. High-tech industrial development zone was also started in China, and free trade zone was also started in China. So these were a kind of a special economic zone. And if some companies or technological company establishes their bases in this area, then they get the tax benefit and they get the electricity and other essential materials at a very low and a very reasonable prices, which helps the development of the country and the development of those places. It also helps in the export of the country. Currently we can see in China, these all are a kind of these red thing, these all are a kind of a special economic zone which has been designed for different reason. So these special economic zone are established in coastal area. Some of the special economic zone is also established in border area, land border area. When trades are done through these special land, a special economic zone, then the traders or the exporters get the benefit. They get the tax benefit and many other things they get from here. So previously I had told you that the China had done gradual liberalization of prices. In dual track system, the private sector and government sector work parallelly. Look at this picture. In the year of 2001, China became the formal member of WTO, World Trade Organization. When China had become the formal member of World Trade Organization, the Chinese import and export was around, it seems, around $350 billion. And in just 15 years, this import and export reached to $2,500 billion. And in the year of 2025, import and export of China has reached to around $5 trillion. 5 trillion. So we can see after inclusion of China in WTO, China had gained much economic progress. China has done much economic progress. After joining WTO, China economic experienced one of the most rapid expansion in the history. So Chinese economic reform has brought prosperity in China, and China now has become a economic power of the world. Currently, China is the second largest economy of the world, and this economic progress has also made China the second powerful military of the world. Now China is a economic and military power of the world. The economic outcome is huge, and this economic outcome was brought because of at correct time China implemented the economic reform in China. And this economic reform brought rapid economic growth. From 1978 to 2005, the average GDP was growing with a speed of 10%. The average annual rate was 10%. So achieving 10% annual GDP growth is huge for a nation. And the economic progress reduced the poverty in China. The people's living standards increased, social and political stability got maintained. Here we look at the picture. In 60s, the China growth was almost nil. We can see in 70s there was almost no growth till 80s. In 1978, China started reforming, opening up its economy. So here we can see Chinese economy GDP started growing. 70s they did further reform, 90s they did the further reform, and here we look at the, this is the year of 2001. In 2001 what happened? China became the formal member of WTO. So that time Chinese economic growth was around 1.5%. As soon as China became a member of WTO, its GDP started growing, and by the year of 2010 the GDP growth rate was around 12%. In 2025 also, currently China GDP is around 4.8% or something, around 5%, and a huge economy like China is growing 5%. This is a very big achievement. Currently we can say some of the country, we can take the example of USA, we can take the example of Japan, they have a very minimal GDP growth rate. But since China is still a very huge country and it is still maintaining around 5% of GDP growth, this is really a very a remarkable achievement for China. China is called factory of the world. Through this data we can see in the year of 1978 most of the peoples were poor in the year of 1980s. But as China economic caught its speed, you can see almost in China there is no poverty. It is very soon it is going to reach to zero. Only few percentage of peoples are poor in China. Since all this economic development was done because China implemented market economy. It reforms its economy. Inequality in China has increased. The philosophy on which People's Republic of China was formed was socialism. So now the China is implementing market economy. The gap between rich and poor is widening. And some of the people, the European countries says that China is implementing a kind of chronic type of capitalism. Today I was looking at news that currently USA is more socialist than China. So just have to just research on that topic, that what is the real condition. In next topic I will discuss all those things. So what about today? What about the current China? Is the current China is a socialist or capitalist? China is still following a socialist mechanism. And Chinese political system is still based on the Marxism and Leninism. The CPC, Marxist-Leninist theory, still serves as the basis for its worldview. It is portraying a global struggle between itself and reactionary forces like the USA. Many critics argue that modern China has abandoned the true socialism, true Marxist-Leninist principle by embracing market-driven capitalist economic policies. China counters this argument by saying that CPC counters this by maintaining that China is in the primary stage of socialism and it is still working towards fully advancing socialist society. So China says that it has still not achieved the socialist goal of China. It is still in the primary phase. A time will come when China will realize the full socialism in China. Thank you.